Welcome to this second edition of Lisbon Art Weekend, where I was supposed to be at Hayden Co-working Space in Santa Apollonia in Lisbon, joined by Paula Capata and Rita GT. And we were supposed to be filmed, but together and streamed online on Sunday at 2 p.m. Unfortunately, the new sanitary measures in Portugal forced us to be confined this weekend. So instead, we're doing these two separate interviews, one with artist Rita GT and one with you, Paola, from Rome. And I'm going to introduce you first. So Paola, you're from Rome. You studied literature and philosophy.
Right.
You have a PhD in history of contemporary art with a thesis on media art centers in Europe. From 2001 to 2003, you collaborated with Roman art magazines and with the National Gallery of Modern Art during the creation of the new Maxi Museum. In 2003, you founded Monitor Gallery, specialized in emerging Italian and international artists, which was joined from 2014 to 2016 by a project space in New York. You have been a member of the committee of Artissima, the international art fair in Turin, since 2014. And you're one of the founders of Gran Palazzo, a new model of contemporary art fair in the province of Rome. And in 2017, you inaugurated a second exhibition space in Lisbon and started Straperetana, a festival of contemporary art in the medieval town of Pereto, where in 2019, you opened a new branch of the gallery. So first, this is quite an impressive journey already, and we are even more so pleased to have you today. And I wanted to just start by asking you, what is the main role of a gallerist and what attracted you to work in contemporary art in the first place?
Well, I mean, it's really something that belongs to my early beginning. So I was attracted to the contemporary artwork gallery since I was around 20 years old. Because by accident, I just entered in one small gallery in Rome near Piazza del Popolo, quite beautiful small gallery, and they were exhibiting some surrealist collage, and I was just impressed by the space, by the show, by the man that was sitting there that came to talk to me, even if I was just a student. And the man was really passionate, and he was just like describing me the whole show. So I remember that when I finished the visit, I was like, wow, this is really great. This is really great way to work, you know? So I would love in the future to be part of that. And of course, that was in the back of my mind for a very long time, because I was just like 19, 20 years old. And I was studying at the university, also, of course, history of art. So it was something that I had in mind, and I just made it when it was possible after my degree of university, of course. And I was about 28 years old when I decided to start the journey with my own gallery. So now I'm 46. So of course it's quite, it's not a long journey, but for a person of my age, I think it's quite long, you know, because it's there was a lot of things going on, a lot of changes. and of course, now it's different than almost 20 years ago, but it feels really right for me. And I think the role of the galleries should be something which it's really demanding in a way, because you really have to take care of a lot of things, but most of everything you really have to take care about the human being and the human being that is around you, that surrounds you. So basically it's like artists, curators, collectors. You have to really deal with all of that. And you know, I think in a way you should leave something, you know, to the people that surrounded you, but also, you know, I think the best would be that when you finish your journey in this artwork, you have left something, you know, that someone else can look at it and can, you know, think about it. And maybe, you know, I don't want to say take an example, but it could be an example in a way, you know, it was with me the same. So it's quite a demanding job.
So I understand it's a very sociable, people-oriented profession. Also, you create something for posterity, if I understand you right.
Yeah.
And by demanding, you mean you have a lot of responsibilities towards the artist, toward people who come to the gallery, towards your client, toward relationships with curators and museums on a big picture. And I know that you, especially like the first time we've met, it wasn't in Italy, it wasn't in Portugal, it was actually in Switzerland, in Basel for a lunch. And I know that your experience is quite international. So which brings me to ask you, what made you open a gallery in Lisbon? Why Lisbon in 2017?
Well, as you said, I had this experience in New York City for a few years, and I felt really right, while I was doing that. I was really happy, to take a plan to go there to try to deal with a country that was totally different by mine, and in a way trying to also bring something to that city and to that contest. Then I realized that I couldn't really bring anything new to New York City, because New York City didn't need me. It was me that I needed New York City. So it's all the way around. And then I decided, okay, it's enough for me. It was a great experience. I have to quit, because also it's really challenging to go to New York every 15 days. And then I was like trying to see which kind of experience I could have add to my journey, right? And I was looking for an international place to start another experience. And I was in Lisbon for a few days in 2016, because one of my artists, Pat O'Neill, was having a show in Quinta de Quetzal. It was actually the show that inaugurates the private museum there. And so after that,
that beautiful place in the Alentejo with a vineyard and this exhibition space.
Exactly, it was amazing. I was there for like a day, and then I spent like a week in Lisbon, like visiting my colleagues that I knew through the art fairs that they were doing together. I was visiting museums, not commercial space, and I felt, well, Lisbon could be a place, because I felt the community in Lisbon is really a great community, I mean, people really care about what you do, about how you do, and if you can really do something in the community. So it was a challenge. I was like, well, maybe I can do it. So that's why I decided. It was actually quite immediate. I decided after like 10 days, So, and I came to Lisbon after 20 days. I came back to Lisbon again. I found the space and I started to renovate the space. And then we opened in May 2017. And so that was what happened actually.
Yes, congratulations. And what made you participate to the Lisbon Art Weekend this year?
I think it's really great, this Lisbon Art Weekend. It's something new that the city needs, in a way that our community in Lisbon needs, because it brings new contacts, new contacts, new people. It's just like something really vibrant that the city
and you want to be part of this conversation in the city. Sure. And because you keep quite a good relationship with other galleries, my understanding is.
Of course. I think it's really, I have a lot of good relationship between my colleagues in Lisbon, and they're really open-minded people that I can talk with. We can, talk about everything. We can confront each other. It's a great community. I'm really pleased to be, I hope, part of that, actually. Yeah, I found really myself there.
Yeah. Can you also tell us more about your other project, the art fair, the Grand Palazzo, and that quirky little festival, Straperetana? I'm really intrigued about having a festival in a medieval town. Tell us more about those two.
Okay, sure, of course. Gran Palazzo is an experience that lasts for like 3 years, and it was me, Dalfo Durante, Ilaria Gianni, curator, and Federica Schiavo, which is another good gallery from Milan, actually. And that was just something that we decided to have as a reaction. The art fairs are really demanding, and we wanted something that was more personal, more intimate, more that allowed people to be more in touch, you know. And so Gran Palazzo was made in a super small town, in a beautiful building from the Renaissance. And the challenge was to adapt the contemporary art to that kind of context. Then we always provide a bunch of really good people coming that was really well selected, like curators, collectors, museum directors. And imagine that the fair was only counting in its maximum 26 galleries to participate. So really, really small bunch of people participating. And the public was about, 300, 400 people each edition. But all the people that came, most of those people were really interested. They had great sales. So everybody was really happy about that, because people took their time to talk to the galleries, to talk to the artists, to have lunch together, to have dinner together. Of course, if the contest is a small one, things are much more relaxed, And we saw this also transferring this to Straperetana, because Straperetana is another kind of project that we wanted to have, to be in touch with galleries and artists that are not represented from the gallery, of course. So for Straperetana, we work with the galleries and we work with artists that are represented by other people. We work also through consignment, and we organize this show, which is all around the Borgo. So due to the pandemic situation that we had this year, we decided to have Straperetana in July anyway, and we were pretty worried about the amount of people that could come to visit Straperetana during those moments. But we had more than 500 people coming, and that means that people felt really right to be in a place which was more controlled, smaller, easier, and I think the future could be also that, like working in small communities, like trying to make things which are more reduced, more focused, more, more related to the empathy that can be between, like, the artists, the curators, the public in general, and
you describe an experience in proximity. Of quality of the relationships,
mm-hmm.
Of taking the time, of getting to know the surroundings or whatever, the artwork, the life around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a good point. If we have to take some positive aspects from all of this experience, this one is definitely something I would also think about. You already mentioned the pandemic consequences on the festival. What are the consequences on your life as a gallerist? I mean, of course, starting with now, the fact that you couldn't make it to Lisbon for all the safety issues that we can mention, but also in general, to keep in touch with your artists, with your colleagues. What was the impact on your life this year?
I have to be really honest with you. Since I started to run the project in New York City, I started not to go in the gallery every day. So I started to deal with people with a distance, between me and them. So I'm quite used to talk a lot on the phone, to talk a lot on Skype, to showing PDF to clients and not going directly to the gallery to show the physical piece. So the consequences were more like psychological than really effective. During the pandemic, during the lockdown, which was like March, April, and part of May, I was always in touch with a lot of my clients, also for human reasons, like, hey, how are you? How are you doing? And of course, in the end, you also talk about art, because this is my life, and in a part, it's also their life too. So of course, I was in touch with collectors, in touch with my curators friends, with all my artists, like almost all of them, really. And my colleagues, I spoke a lot with my colleagues in Portugal, for example.
How did you do it? Did you like a video chat from the studio?
Of course, yeah. Of
like,
course.
what are you working on? Or look here.
Well, I was doing a lot of things, you know. I was like even walking my dog and talking with video conference with my collectors and showing them the landscape around me, and you know, was really human in a way. Of course, I don't want to say that it was easy, because the, you know, the consequent psychological are that would be quite big, especially not now, but in a while, I think. But my reaction was quite positive. So we didn't have great problems, you know, in terms of sales or in terms of contacts.
What is one big project that you managed to achieve through during this period? Do you have an example?
Well, first of all, we just finished, we are almost finishing the show in Roma, which was a big solo show, which is also a group show in the same time by Tommaso De Luca, which is one of my Italian artists, the youngest one, which is this year also one of the candidates to the Maxi Prize and to the Quadriennale of Rome. So for Tommaso, it's really big. And the show is big because we had a lot of transportations, we deal with a lot of galleries, so we deal with estates, and we built up all of this during the pandemic, and we delivered the result in September, where we had the show at the gallery. And in the gallery, we had more than 200 visitors the day of the opening. So it was a big thing for us. And maybe the biggest things that we delivered after in Roma, you know, during the pandemic. The second big thing was, of course, and that's why I'm truly sorry that I'm not in Lisbon right now, is this new artist of the gallery, which is opening the show today in Monitor Lisbon, which is Daniel Melim. And, you know, it's always difficult when you have to decide to have an artist on board, and because it's a marriage, right? So you are married in a way. So you really have to say yes, right?
I mean, it's a marriage between the gallerist and the artist.
Absolutely, it for me is a total marriage. So so we did this marriage, but through distance, you know, because last time we met was September, and now, you know, and then we organized the show during the summertime, talking on the phone and blah blah. So and today Daniel is finally delivering all the results, you know.
I was going to ask you more information about this show at the very end of our interview, but since we're talking about Daniel now, can you tell us a bit the story, how you came across his work, how you met, you know, and how you took him on board for the gallery?
Sure. I mean, you know, all my artists have always incredible stories about how we met. So in that case,
we want to know. We want to know the behind the scenes.
Yeah, of course. I was just like visiting the Biennale in Coimbra last winter, and I was like, it was raining like crazy, and I was like walking around the corridors of this fantastic building in Coimbra, and I saw a guy which was painting in the really end of a long corridor, and I saw him, you know, from really long distance, and I was like, oh, what's that? I mean, the guy is painting, let me go and see it. So I was close to him, I was looking at him for a while, then I was, hey, hi, how are you doing, who are you? We started to chat a bit. And I was really captivated about his personality, but also his way to work, which was like, you know, just in front of everybody. I mean, the Biennale that day was actually empty, but the guy was there, you know, it was cold and he was painting. He was really careful about what he was doing, was really concentrated. So, and his work stayed in the back of my mind for, let's say, a few months. And then I made another studio visit. We talked more and more. And then I said myself, well,
where is his studio?
His studio now is, forgive me, because
I mean, in Lisbon, outside of
Lisbon. In Quadrum, you know, okay, where Quadrum is?
Mm-hmm.
It's in Lisbon, and it's like one of those studios upstairs, you know, where Quadrum is. And this is new.
Yes, it's government supported.
Yeah. Yes.
Studios.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I just realized that Daniel was exactly what I was looking for. You know, also because, you know, as
he's
a gallery,
painter. He paints about what? Tell us more.
He's a painter. He has a really incredible imaginary, which is really related to his autobiography, but also to Portugal a lot. There is a lot of Portugal culture in his work, which is really visionary. He's a painter. He's a super refined painter. He works mainly oil with oil, and most of the time he paint on supports which are really old wood that are like 200 or 100 years old. So in a way they are kind of tridimensional, because the supports, they're not just regular canvas, not only regular canvas, but also like, you know, it can be like a bed head, it can be a chest plate, it can be like a piece of wood, and in the gallery there are not so many works, like at least there are only 5, so really, you know, really refined, really kind of concentrated exhibition, but it's all about poetry and Portuguese traditions in a way. So that's why I decided to also have him on board, because he's an excellent painter, like technically, but he has a vision which is really unique, and he's really related to the country that I decided to work in, you know, like Sergio Carragna, which is another one of my Portuguese artists. So I want something like that in my gallery. If I have to take someone from Portugal, it has to be someone that actually doesn't look like an English artist, British artist, or American artist, or German artist. I want to have someone which is really related to the culture there. You know, for me, it's the only reason why I'm scouting there until now. You know, now 5 years of scouting.
I like the scouting.
I move a lot.
I find it very interesting, because there is this question of why do we still need art, and why do we need art specifically now, when, you know, in times of challenges. And it's interesting that you note that working in the art and working with these artists allows you to develop your relationship with a place, with a region, with Portugal specifically, its history, its moods. So I find this very interesting, that this is a filter in a way to discover oneself and probably the place where you're working. Also, you mentioned painting and oil. I want to go back a little bit to this relationship with online and offline that we have. You gave me beautiful examples of very emotional and powerful experiences with the presence, you know, like meeting someone, seeing them painting at the end of a corridor, and then having a conversation, which is a bit by chance. And the other example you gave. But now that, can you still make discoveries online? Especially since, in my experience, especially for paintings, they often look better in person when they're good than they look in photos. And when they're a little bit less good, they look better in photos than they look in real. So, and plus then you also have the energy. So what are now your tools to navigate that? Did you put it on hold a little bit, the discoveries, or are you still doing research online? What you experience?
I do research online, of course, and I also had some conversation online through via Skype, of course, with some artists that I'm looking at the moment. But for me, it's really important that at least I need to spend a little bit of time with the artist, you know, before deciding even to give her or him a show, you know, at the gallery. I really need to understand who is the person in front of me, not only if I like the work or not. So for now it's on hold, because I'm studying, let's say, as much as I can online, but then I totally have to meet them, you know, before.
And the artworks, because I saw you seem to agree with me when I was saying that they can be, artworks can be deceiving.
Sure, that they have to be seen from real, you know. For example, I told you that I made sales, you know, during the pandemic lockdown. Yes, I made sales to people that know exactly what I'm selling, you know. They know exactly the artist that I'm proposing, because they know the artist, especially with painting, you know. Paintings are something that you always should see from real, unless you really know the artist that, you know, we are talking about. Then you can also avoid, because you know how the artist is good, the hand, you know, and then you can imagine what the final result would be from real, you know. But of course, painting must have seen from real for sure. You know, that's so I agree with you that there is a big difference, of course, especially if you don't know the painter that much, like in person. You know.
Yes, and but Okay. And do you still find, for the whole process of getting to know people, you still manage to make connections online?
Yeah.
So that's,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, I managed to have connection. I want to tell you, sorry, I forgot to tell you something. There's something that I want to tell you. You know, I'm an art historian, so I'm used to study on manuals of art history. You know, I'm used to see pictures which are printed. You know, so I grew up with that. For me, if it's a book or if it's a computer, it's the same thing. You know, first I try to study the composition of the painting to see, you know, how the artist managed to make it. And then for me to see it from real is just the last touch. It's just the last thing. You know, it's like you see, I don't know, Piero della Francesca from a manual, and then you want to go in San Sepolcro to see it from real. But of course, you know, because you have to finalize this marriage, but to meet physically the figure, the painting. But you already have started your journey in your brain, you know, in a way. This is something that I want to have.
Yeah, that's it. It's probably we can come to the physical experience of art online via an intellectual process and affinities, but we cannot really discover something by chance or have a physical experience that then is going to lead to some intellectual research and digging. So we have to think in a reverse way. So what are your projects for now? Like for after this, what are you working on at the moment? There is the show with Daniel in Lisbon that opening on Friday, the 13th, and is going to be until.
Probably the show is going to last until January, and our bigger dream would be to have finally a finissage where I can come and stay there a bit, and you know, also, you know, meet my friends and the artists again. So for sure it's going to be until January, and now we are building up the rest of the program, which is in process, is almost closed, and for Portugal. While in Italy, because the situation is not easy, we probably are going to postpone the duration of this show for a little bit. We have to understand what's going on, and we will maybe have an idea on Sunday of the safety regulations and so on, because we are going to have a new declaration by the government on Sunday. So, you know, you have to really think out of the box in this moment. You have to be creative. You don't have to panic. You always have to have the plan B, the plan C. You know, you have to have several plans and then try to stay calm and say, okay, we do what can we do, you know, like stay calm.
Yeah, that's a good attitude. Do you feel supported as well by your international colleague, or the gallerists?
Well, I have a good relationship with few colleagues, not a lot of them. You can't have with a lot of people, but yeah, I have an exchange with some people in France, some people in Spain, of course, a lot of colleagues in Portugal, of course, my Italian colleagues. But for now, we are all like thinking, okay, let's wait. We are waiting. We are in a bubble, you know, trying to get out of the bubble, but we can't. So at the moment, we have to stay in the bubble, you know, trying to be comfortable in the bubble and you know, and think, because thinking is a good exercise, you know, to get over this.
Yes, when I talked to Rita, we made a point about this is probably a time when we get to stimulate our imagination.
So sure.
So
totally.
Even if we're in a bubble, I'm still very happy that we managed to talk today, and the Lisbon Art Weekend is somehow happening, mostly online, but there are still some shows in Lisbon, so people will be able to go and see them with masks and, you know, all the sanitary measures all throughout this month and next probably. So we're still happy this is happening, because we still need to maintain a little liaison in between. But I really want to thank you for taking the time to do this, to react with us from the different formulas that this was supposed to happen. And I'm hoping to see you soon. So
thank you so much.
A gallery tour. So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Paula.